Okay, so for everybody who is watching this right now and doesn't know who I am the Vice President at the East Texas Film Society, and I have Nick here with me from Fish Jelly, and I'll let him just kind of introduce himself and just kind of talk about himself for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, my name's Nicholas Bell. I started out as a film journalist, film critic for a website called Ion Cinema. And I also write for Spin Magazine. And you know me as the co-host of a YouTube film review channel called Fish Jelly, which I am a part of alongside my husband, Joseph. And we've been doing that for we started in 2019. So I guess that's 6 years now.
Okay. The first question that I had for you is, how, I know you guys I've watched some Q&As from you guys before, and you kind of touch on it a little bit here and there, but what kind of like got you started on film? Like what started your film journey? Because I know for some people it's, they watch movies with their parents, or they just watch stuff without their parents, maybe stuff that they're not supposed to, or, where kind of did you start with that? Where did you get an interest for film?
It started when I was young. I think my first love was literature, inspired by my maternal grandmother. So I was a very avid reader, like maybe obsessive. But cinema was still, we didn't call it that in my family. I grew up in northern Minnesota, but movies, were a large part of our family. It was kind of a bonding thing. And we would usually weekly go to the local video store and rent usually newer releases, VHS. And that was kind of the language with which we could all get along talking about movies. So movies were a safe space. And then, of course, getting cable, and then having HBO and the new movie every Saturday night was kind of a family event. So those were all very fond, happy memories. But it took a little longer for me to feel that cinema was something that I was as equally, if not more, in love with than literature. And that probably happened around the time I was in fourth grade, which would have been 1994. And it started with watching Alien for the first time and seeing Sigourney Weaver. And that started also a similar lifelong obsession with that actor. And then that slowly progressed from there. It still was very much an entertainment kind of phase, but I took a film class in post-secondary in high school. So it was on a community college campus. And that was the first time, it probably would have been about 16, 17, introduced to, foreign cinema, international cinema, because my family, we didn't really watch films with subtitles. So that was the first time on the syllabus. I remember the first film in that class was La Belle et la Bête, the Jean Cocteau classic. And that opened up a whole new world for me. And now I don't even really watch English language films without subtitles. That's how I feel dependent on also reading along with the images. But that was kind of the groundwork. And then, that's the wonderful thing about cinema, is every film is a connection to so many other worlds. And if you take the time to really research, or just where you follow your interests, you're led down such an amazing road. And I am learning, I feel so ignorant because every day I'm learning about someone or something new. And it can be very overwhelming, but I love it. I love it for that reason as well.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you on the ignorant part, which is kind of interesting for you to say that, because I feel like you might be the most like knowledgeable person that I've ever like watched, where like I think that was what actually like drew me to you guys' channel. Obviously Joseph is hilarious too, and
yes,
but it was the first video that I watched was for the Black Phone, the first one that came out like 3 years ago. And I wasn't fond of it really, and which is fine. That's not really the point, but the way that, I continued to watch more videos, and then you would always just say, yeah, this movie from 1950 whatever, directed by this guy, used this kind of same theme or something like that. It was just be so much knowledge that you had over so many movies, which obviously comes from just watching so many things. And but it's interesting that you mentioned just being ignorant, because I feel like I've watched so many movies. I think this is the first year that I'm going to watch like 400 in like a year, according to my letterbox.
Mhm.
But I feel like I haven't seen anything at the same time. Like, it's so the vast number of movies that come out every year, on top of what has come out already, is crazy. Um, but I did want to ask you what, because you mentioned Alien, and I love Alien too. I think I watched it maybe when I was like 13, 14, and it was amazing. But what specifically about Alien did you like really gravitate towards? Was it just kind of the aesthetics, or maybe because I know you watched it at a very early age? What kind of drew you to it exactly?
Well, first off, thank you for your kind words. I don't know. I appreciate that. I seem knowledgeable, but the only it really is just kind of putting your time in, and maybe having a decent memory, which I do. And we tend to remember things we have a love and a passion for. So I feel like I'm not often deserving of such acknowledgement, but I appreciate that. Well, as I said, I was an avid reader, and I was reading things that I was too young to read. I was sneak reading V.C. Andrews on the school bus, Anne Rice, and Stephen King, and Peter Benchley. Like, those were all, I couldn't get enough of any of those authors. So horror was something I was innately interested in. And my mother and I had been watching the Sci-Fi Channel. Again, the cable was new in the household, and there was a special about the Alien at the time. It was the Alien trilogy, before the fourth one. Okay. And Tom Skerritt was hosting it, and I heard the name Sigourney Weaver, and I looked at my mom like, what kind of I was automatically intrigued that this was such an enigma, this name. And of course, she gets her name from The Great Gatsby, which I hadn't read yet.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So that was completely new. So my mom's like, "Oh, Alien's great. We watched this little special." She's like, "Let's go rent it tonight." And we came home. It was a double feature. We rented that, and It Could Happen to You, starring Nicolas Cage, Rosie Perez, and Bridget Fonda. We watched that first. Mom goes to bed. My dad and I stay up and watch Alien. And I was arrested by the visuals, basically from when the credits start. And then I remember the first time Sigourney comes up on screen, my dad's like, "That's her." And as that film progressed, and she is this strong final girl, if you will, I think I already knew I was gay at that time. I think I really responded to that. And that was a Friday night. So it was immediately like, "Please, let's go rent the second one." And, that's cemented it. But the visuals, the H.R. Giger visuals and all and I wouldn't have been able to articulate this at the time, but I think I was responding to, all these kind of phallic and vaginal orifices that are all over. It's also a titillating film, but it was. Yeah, it caused me to go kind of down a rabbit hole of not just the Alien movies, sci-fi, because once you find that thread that you love, there's no turning back.
Yeah. I watched when the Alien Romulus came out. We were kind of preparing to, because I hadn't seen every Alien movie yet. I'd seen the first two and just like the Alien versus Predator movies, which are not really canon, but there's still aliens in them.
Adjacent, yeah.
So I watched a kind of like a documentary behind the scenes videos on YouTube over H.R. Giger, which I think that's like the most important part of the movie. And they talk about it, how, they had worked on Ridley Scott had been working on pre-production and working with other like artists for the designs, but they specifically pointed out how it didn't look alien enough. Like they had like a model for like a spaceship, but it still looked like a spaceship. it didn't look alien enough for it to be, sci-fi,
Mhm.
in a sci-fi alien film. And I think that his art style is really what has made Alien what it is. Obviously, the story and everything else, the actors is amazing, and the horror element and stuff like that. But yeah, the visuals were definitely something that I was very attracted to. Um, and again, that kind of adds to his art style of like the subconscious. Uh, but yeah, we love Alien and we love. It's cool that you mentioned literature and stuff too, because everybody on our Discord channel, we talk about everything like books, films, art, and something that I was going to mention about what you said earlier about how you started off with literature, and I've always mentioned this to other like filmmakers that I've talked to recently, how film is kind of like a culmination of so many other like artistic expressions, like literature, music, um, sculpting for like set designers, stuff like that. It's kind of like the ultimate art.
Yeah, I agree. And, talking about film is in maybe there not being an actual perfect. What I love about film is also innately the flaws, or, subjectively, what some might interpret to be a flaw with a film. I like that. I'm a proponent of auteur theory, but only as a way to kind of get a handle on maybe a through line in talking about some things. But yeah, every film is a collective piece of art, and how those things work with, how those elements work with and against each other, I think are also fascinating. But what's going on behind the scene as well. So I like, for lack of a better word, like a three-dimensional approach to cinema. There are so many entry points that could strike your interest. And also I want to say a side note for Alien, the creature designed by Carlo Rambaldi. You have to mention him, because I think he primed me for falling in love with a film I saw much later, which was Possession by Andrzej Zulawski from 1981, because I'm also obsessed with that film. And he designed the creature that Isabella Gianni is having sex with. But, I think seeing it at such a formative age, automatically that kind of stuff. And as you, to speak to what you were saying, there's an attraction, you're attracted and repelled to it, or repelled by it.
Yeah.
Which is fear, which is anxiety, which is sexuality. So, we are really complex creatures that only maybe look at ourselves in a very superficial way. And I think film and cinema can really subconsciously affect us in ways that we might not ever be aware of.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, Alien is all those things that you mentioned, and also just a really good horror movie. In space.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Everyone can point to something, and I think be fascinated by it, which is why I think it's an amazing film, an important film, I think, for sci-fi. But it's funny that you mentioned Possession, because I do have a whole section for just Possession later on, and I'm actually I'm wearing a Possession shirt.
Oh, yes, you are. Yes, that's a great print. Yeah. Okay.